Have you ever looked at the art in a game? Like really looked at it and felt it told a story all its own? A story that wasn't just, background dressing, but actually deepened your connection to that world.
It's funny you start there because just last week, we were playing a session delving into some long-forgotten dwarven mines.
Hmm.
Our DM described this massive chamber, the walls covered in carvings so intricate they seemed to, like, writhe in the torchlight.
Wow.
But what really stuck with me was this one depiction of an ancient battle. The sheer desperation on the warriors' faces, the brutal weight of their weapons, even the way the stone itself seemed to crack and bleed around them.
Hmm.
It wasn't just an illustration. It felt like a window into a real moment in that world's history, And it completely changed how I approached the rest of the adventure.
That feeling, yeah, that immersion, that visual storytelling can create. That's exactly what we're going to explore today.
Yeah.
Because there's a pretty significant discussion happening right now, particularly within the D&D and tabletop RPG communities, about the increasing presence of AI-generated art in our games.
Right, we've gathered a range of perspectives on this, and what seems to be at the heart of it is a fundamental question about, well, the nature of creativity in gaming. Is AI art a natural progression, a helpful tool that expands what's possible?
Or does it represent a potential loss, a threat to the human artistry that many of us deeply value in these worlds?
Exactly. That's the core tension we're looking at.
So let's start by looking at what really kicked off this debate. It seems there was a specific situation within the D&D community where AI-generated elements were found in official artwork.
That's right. And I think the intensity of the reaction really stemmed from the deep appreciation fans have for the human element in the art of D&D. These visuals aren't just decoration. They bring our imaginations to life.
Totally.
And the idea that some of that might be created without direct human intention, yeah, that clearly resonated strongly with many people.
It wasn't just a shrug and that's interesting. The fallout in the community seems like it was pretty widespread. There were accusations flying around about, artistic deception. People were calling for publishers to make clear rules about using AI in art. But it wasn't like everyone agreed. Some fans actually defended the artist, saying it was just using the tools available.
Yeah, it sounds like a really charged atmosphere. I can picture the online forums just exploding calls for boycotts of those specific products, maybe petitions demanding more transparency about how the art was made. And underneath all that, the real worry for human artists about their jobs, their livelihoods, that must have been a huge part of the conversation too.
No doubt. The debates on social media probably got right down to the basics of what artistic integrity even means now. And it wasn't just about that one piece of art. It made everyone think about the whole gaming industry. Artists themselves were voicing pretty serious fears about their skills being devalued, making it harder to make a living.
But it wasn't all negative, right? Did we also see creators saying AI could be a tool, not necessarily a replacement, something that could maybe help their own creative process?
Yeah, there was definitely that perspective too. Some creators advocated for AI as something that could enhance their workflow, potentially. And of course, the publishers were suddenly in a tricky spot, facing a lot of pressure to rethink how they commission artwork going forward. It really feels like this one incident just perfectly captured the split in the fan base about putting AI into something so central to the game's feel.
Exactly. And I think the main takeaway from that whole D&D situation is how it just starkly highlighted the tension between, the traditional way, the human-created art we expect, and these fast-moving technological changes. It's kind of a small example of much bigger conversations happening everywhere in creative industries.
Right. For a lot of people, it felt like a disconnect, almost a kind of betrayal. Betrayal of the artistic integrity they associate with such a foundational part of the hobby.
Yeah, betrayal is a word that definitely came up.
It raised questions about authenticity and, who is truly contributing to these worlds we love. And this particular instance seems to have really opened up a much wider conversation about the role of AI in creative fields generally.
And what's fascinating about that D&D situation is how it actually came to light. It wasn't like some big announcement. It sounds like astute fans started noticing certain visual patterns or inconsistencies in a particular piece.
Oh, interesting. So like visual tells.
Kind of, yeah. Leading to speculation about its origins and the methods used in its creation.
And then the artist confirmed using AI as part of their process. That must have really, amplified the discussion. You can imagine the spectrum of responses.
Oh, for sure. From genuine disappointment and a feeling of having been misled to perhaps others who viewed it simply as an artist utilizing modern tools at their disposal.
Right. Just another tool in the box.
Indeed. And the consequences within the community appear to have been multifaceted. There were definitely accusations of a lack of transparency, if not, well, outright deception regarding the artistic process.
Okay.
We also saw significant calls for Wizards of the Coast and other publishers to establish much clearer guidelines and policies around the use of AI in commissioned artwork. But it wasn't like a unanimous condemnation. Some voices did emerge defending the use of technology in art creation.
It sounds like a really charged atmosphere online. I wouldn't be surprised if there were even suggestions of boycotting the specific products featuring the artwork in question.
Yeah, that happened.
And I'm sure petitions demanding greater transparency about the art's origins were circulating. And underlying all of this, of course, is the very real concern among human artists about the potential impact on their livelihoods.
Absolutely. The social media discussions must have been intense, really grappling with what artistic integrity means in an era where algorithms can produce visually compelling images, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about that single piece. It sparked broader discussions about the implications for the entire gaming industry and the future of artistic work within it. Many artists voiced genuine fears about the potential devaluation of their unique skills and the time they've invested in honing their craft.
But it wasn't entirely a negative reaction.
Right.
We also heard from some creators who see AI not as a replacement, but as another tool in the artist's toolkit, something that could potentially enhance their creative workflows or allow them to explore new visual styles.
True, there was that perspective too. And publishers, kind of caught in the middle, were undoubtedly facing pressure to reevaluate their commissioning practices moving forward.
It seems like this one incident really exposed a fundamental division within the fan base regarding the integration of AI into something as integral as the game's visual identity.
Precisely. And I think that initial D&D incident really serves as a potent example of the inherent tension that arises when a long-standing tradition, in this case, the deeply valued tradition of human-created art in fantasy role-playing encounters a rapidly evolving technological capability. It's a microcosm of similar debates unfolding across, well, numerous creative fields right now.
Which naturally leads us to some really complex ethical considerations that emerge when AI becomes involved in creative endeavors. This isn't just a matter of personal preference or artistic taste, right? There are questions of right and wrong, of ownership.
And a whole host of nuanced issues to consider.
Yeah.
What's particularly compelling here is the intersection of consent and copyright. When an AI model is trained on vast data sets of existing artwork, often without explicit permission,
Right, that's the big one.
and then generates something new that might echo or even mimic established styles, who truly holds the rights to that new creation? It challenges our traditional understanding of originality and intellectual property in pretty significant ways.
And when you start to unpack that, the perspectives of everyone involved become really critical. Let's think about the artists themselves first. What are some of the primary ethical concerns they have in this evolving landscape?
Well, for many artists, a core concern is the potential for their work to be used without their permission to train AI models. And then for those models to generate art in their style, potentially undermining their ability to earn a living from their unique creative voice. There's a real sense of losing control over their intellectual property.
Like having your style stolen, basically.
Yeah, and the fear of unauthorized replication and even plagiarism, it's deeply unsettling for many.
Then you have the publishers. They're in a difficult position, aren't they? Trying to balance the potential for increased efficiency and cost effectiveness that AI might offer,
Which is always appealing from a business perspective.
with the need to uphold the artistic integrity of their games and, crucially, maintain the trust and enthusiasm of their player base. Alienating fans is a big risk.
Exactly. And for the fans, the ethical considerations often revolve around authenticity and the perceived soul of the art. There's a worry that if art is increasingly generated by algorithms, it might lack the emotional depth and intentionality that comes from a human creator.
That connection you were talking about earlier.
Right, potentially diminishing their connection to the game world and the stories being told. It feels less personal, maybe.
And we also need to consider the role of the AI companies themselves. They're developing and promoting these technologies, so there's arguably an ethical responsibility there too, right? To address the potential ramifications and ensure these tools are used in a way that respects creators and their rights.
Absolutely. The material we have actually provides a really useful framework for thinking about these ethics. For instance, when we consider consent and copyright, a key concern for artists is indeed the unauthorized use of their work in training data.
Okay.
One potential avenue for a solution being explored is the development of systems that allow artists to, like, opt in or opt out to control whether or not their work is used in this way.
That sounds like it could be a crucial step. And looking at the potential loss of artistic control for artists, where AI might be used to create derivative works without their direct input. What about that?
Well, the idea of clearer legal frameworks around AI-generated art and the rights of original creators seems like a necessary development. Defining ownership and usage rights is going to be key.
Makes sense. And what resonates with the fans' concerns about the lack of soul or emotional depth in AI art? Is there anything addressing that?
Yeah, the ongoing discussion about transparency seems relevant there. The idea of clearly labeling art that has been generated or significantly assisted by AI.
Like a disclaimer?
Sort of. It could allow consumers to make informed choices and understand the creative process behind what they're seeing. It acknowledges the difference.
That element of transparency seems to be a recurring theme and feels really important for building and maintaining trust between creators, publishers, and the audience. Because beyond the ethical questions, there's this whole issue of what might be inherently lost if we see a significant shift towards AI replacing human artists in game development.
Yeah, it's not just about economics.
No, there's a cultural and emotional dimension to consider.
Precisely. The material really emphasizes the emotional depth and the intentionality that human artists bring to their work. When a human artist creates something, it's often informed by their personal experiences, their understanding of the narrative, their desire to evoke a specific feeling.
You can feel that sometimes, can't you?
Definitely. That's a layer of meaning that can be difficult, maybe impossible for an algorithm to replicate authentically.
And you can't really program in the unique artistic styles that emerge from individual human creativity, can you? These distinct visual voices contribute so much to the richness and diversity of the games we play.
They really do. They help define the unique character of different worlds and genres. Think about how different artists interpret the same fantasy trope. That variety is precious.
That's right. And there's also the often underappreciated value of intentional imperfection in handcrafted art. Those slight variations, the subtle textures or brushstrokes.
Yeah, the little quirks.
They can lend a sense of authenticity and human touch that can be lost in the often flawless, sometimes sterile output of AI.
The sources really highlight the multifaceted nature of this potential loss. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about the emotional resonance that connects players to the game world on a deeper level. It's those unique artistic styles that contribute to the cultural identity of games.
It's those intentional imperfections that make art feel human and relatable. And beyond that, it's the personal connection that could exist between an artist and their audience. People follow specific artists for a reason.
Exactly. And it's the dynamic expression of human emotions, the narrative depth that visuals can add, the infusion of personal and historical contexts, even the symbolic motifs and the willingness to take artistic risks that human artists bring to the table, pushing boundaries.
Absolutely. We're also talking about the collaborative aspect of artistic creation in game development, how art can reflect and engage with societal changes, the importance of preserving traditional artistic skills.
And perhaps crucially, providing a platform for marginalized voices and perspectives. Art can be a powerful form of personal and even political expression.
These are all facets of the human touch that are potentially at risk if we move too heavily towards AI-driven art. It's about the underlying soul and intent behind the creation, isn't it?
It really is. So with all these considerations in mind, how are the actual game development studios, the publishers and indie teams alike, starting to navigate this evolving landscape? It can't be a straightforward decision for anyone.
No, I bet it's causing a lot of internal discussion.
It appears there's a real spectrum of approaches being adopted. Some companies seem more open to embracing AI, recognizing its potential for streamlining workflows, maybe exploring new visual possibilities, quick concepting perhaps.
Right. While others are taking a more cautious stance, keenly aware of the potential impact on their artistic integrity and, importantly, the values of their player communities. They don't want that backlash.
It sounds like everyone's trying to find that delicate balance, as Imperial suggests, a harmonious balance between leveraging the efficiencies of new technology and safeguarding the creative spirit that makes gaming so compelling in the first place.
When you look at specific policy and publisher responses, this range of strategies becomes clearer. Some publishers are proactively developing transparent guidelines,
Yeah, laying out the rules.
outlining exactly how AI can and cannot be used in their projects. They're attempting to establish clear boundaries to foster innovation while still upholding artistic standards.
That proactive approach seems like a good way to provide clarity and build trust with both artists and players. Shows they're thinking about it. But then you also have companies that are taking a more wait and see approach.
Kicking the can down the road a bit.
Maybe, or perhaps just understandably hesitant given the ongoing debates and the potential for alienating their audience if they move too quickly or make the wrong call.
Yeah, it's high stakes.
Exactly. They're likely monitoring the technological advancements and observing the community's reactions before making any definitive long-term commitments. And then, at the other end of the spectrum, you have those who are actively exploring and even championing AI as a significant part of the future of art creation in games.
Really leaning into it.
Yeah, eager to tap into its innovative potential, see what it can do.
It really highlights the complexity of this issue and the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Different companies are clearly weighing the potential benefits and risks in ways that align with their own values and their understanding of their audience.
Which naturally brings us to the perspectives of the artists themselves. As we touched on earlier, the emergence of AI has created a noticeable schism within the professional artistic community. It's far from a unified viewpoint.
No, it sounds like there's some pretty strong and differing opinions on this. Let's consider the artists who are more open to using AI. What are some of their main arguments in favor of these tools? What's the upside for them?
Well, for some, the appeal lies in the potential for increased efficiency and the automation of certain tasks that might otherwise be really time-consuming, the grunt work, freeing them up to concentrate on the more conceptually driven aspects of their work.
Okay, like idea generation or refinement.
Yeah, or handling repetitive elements. AI can also offer new avenues for experimentation and the exploration of visual styles they might not have otherwise considered or had the time to develop manually.
And on the other side, you had the artists who are more resistant to AI in their field. What are their primary concerns and objections? What's the downside they see?
Their concerns often center on the potential for the devaluation of human artistic skill and labor. There's a real fear that widespread use of AI could lead to a commodification of art, where it's just churned out cheaply.
Like content rather than art.
Exactly. Undermining the livelihoods of human artists and diminishing the perceived value of their unique creative contributions, the years of practice and skill development.
And it seems there's also a significant segment of artists who are trying to find a middle ground, exploring ways in which AI could be integrated into their workflows as a tool, but without completely replacing the human element.
That's right. They see the potential for AI to be a helpful assistant, maybe, capable of augmenting their creativity and streamlining certain processes, but they emphasize the importance of maintaining human oversight and intention at the core of the artistic process.
So AI serves the artist, not the other way around.
That's the idea. It's about finding a symbiotic relationship between human skill and technological capabilities, using AI to enhance, not replace.
The material actually provides a helpful summary of these different viewpoints. For instance, those who are pro-AI might highlight the benefit of rapid prototyping and iteration, just getting ideas out fast.
While those who are wary emphasize the potential loss of human touch and artistic intention, that core value we discussed.
And the middle ground often focuses on AI as a collaborative tool under human direction, keeping the human firmly in the driver's seat.
Exactly. Another key distinction is that some see AI as potentially democratizing art creation by lowering technical barriers, making it easier for more people to create visuals.
Which could be seen as a positive.
While others express concern about the threat to the livelihoods of professional artists who depend on their skills, again, the middle ground often suggests clear ethical guidelines and regulations for AI use in the arts to mitigate those harms.
It really underscores the complexity of this issue and the fact that artists are approaching it from a variety of perspectives, each with valid points and concerns. It's not a simple black and white issue, is it?
Not at all. Absolutely. And I think it's crucial to approach these different viewpoints with empathy and a recognition that despite their differing opinions on the role of AI, most artists share a common desire to see art continue to thrive and evolve in a meaningful way. Nobody wants art itself to suffer.
Now let's turn our attention to the indie game development scene. For these smaller studios, often working with, let's face it, limited budgets and tight deadlines, the temptation to utilize AI art might be particularly strong.
Oh, you're absolutely right. For indie developers, the potential for significant cost savings and increased efficiency that AI offers can be incredibly appealing. It could allow them to allocate their limited resources, money, time to other critical areas of game development, like programming or writing.
And potentially speed up their production timelines, get the game out faster.
Definitely. That's a huge draw.
But indie games often cultivate a very particular kind of charm, don't they? A personal touch that resonates with players. Doesn't a heavy reliance on AI art risk losing that unique connection and feeling of handcrafted authenticity?
That's a really critical point, yeah. Indie fans often appreciate the passion and personal investment that goes into these smaller projects. There's a definite risk that if AI is perceived as replacing a human artistry, it could erode that sense of personal connection.
The made by real people vibe.
Exactly, which is a significant part of the indie game appeal. Furthermore, maintaining a consistent and cohesive visual style across an entire game solely through AI generation can present its own set of challenges. It might look patchy or generic.
And I imagine the community pressure on indie developers is also a significant factor. They often build a strong rapport with their players, who often champion their dedication to their craft. Embracing AI too readily might be seen as a departure from those values, right?
Exactly. The material highlights several key considerations for indie devs navigating this. Budget limitations are certainly a major driving force, yeah, but they also have to carefully consider their small team sizes and the balance between potential task automation
Saving precious hours.
and the risk of alienating their dedicated player base who value that human touch. It's a constant tightrope walk between creative control and production efficiency, all while trying to preserve their unique artistic identity.
It sounds like a real balancing act.
Mhm.
You have to weigh the practicalities of integrating AI tools with their existing workflows, manage player expectations for originality and artistic vision, and be mindful of the potential for their games to lose some of that distinct handcrafted feel.
Definitely. And then, of course, there are the ethical considerations we discussed earlier, the potential impact on human artists, the responsible use of AI technology. Those don't go away just because the budget is smaller.
Right.
And let's not overlook the challenge of navigating community reactions. Indie developers often have a very direct and personal relationship with their players, and any perceived shift in their artistic approach is likely to be met with considerable feedback, both positive and negative. They hear it loud and clear.
So transparency becomes even more critical for them, maybe.
I would think so. Ultimately, for indie studios, the decision of whether and how to incorporate AI art is about more than just saving money. It's deeply intertwined with their identity, their values, and the connection they have with their players.
It really positions indie developers as potentially influential in shaping the future of this debate. Their choices and how they communicate those choices could set important precedents for how smaller teams can find a sustainable and ethical balance between creativity and technology.
Absolutely. They have a real opportunity to lead the way, perhaps, in demonstrating how creativity and technological innovation can coexist harmoniously within the gaming landscape. Find those smart integrations.
This has been a truly insightful exploration into a really complex and rapidly evolving area. It's clear that there are valid arguments and deeply held beliefs on all sides of the AI art discussion within the gaming community.
Indeed, there are no easy answers here, and it really prompts you, the listener, to consider your own relationship with the art in the games you love. What qualities do you value most in those visuals?
Yeah, what makes it resonate for you? Does knowing that a piece was created by a human hand impact your experience of it? Or does the final image stand on its own? What began as kind of a low hum has really, well, amplified into a major conversation. Cross forums, Discord, live streams, it's basically everywhere.
It really has. It's
Yeah.
moved beyond just a discussion about, new technology, hasn't it? It's really touching on something fundamental about what gaming is at its core. We're talking about the very identity of the hobby.
Exactly. When you think about what draws so many of us to these games, it's more than just the mechanics, It's this
Right.
incredible blend of art and storytelling. And the community, well, you included, are such active participants in that creative process, whether it's through fan art, cosplay, or building out your own game world. It's a deeply creative ecosystem.
And that's precisely why the emergence of AI art feels so significant. Here's this technology that can produce visuals that, on the surface, resemble the art that dedicated fans spend considerable time and effort creating. This immediately brings up these really complex questions about what we consider authentic, who we recognize as an artist, and the inherent value of that creative work when the generation process becomes so rapid.
You can really sense the friction within the community, can't you? Some players feel genuinely disappointed, maybe even a bit betrayed, when they see official game materials incorporating AI art. It seems to tap into a sense of, like, trust and what they believe the creators stand for.
Right. But then you've got another part of the community that sees the potential, the increased accessibility maybe, and the creative possibilities that these tools could unlock. They're more open to it.
Caught right in the middle of all this are the artists themselves. Many have, dedicated years to honing their skills specifically within these gaming spaces. So understandably, there's a feeling of vulnerability as they kind of have to advocate for their work and question what their future holds.
Yeah, and they're also looking for clarity, for accountability from the companies they've often supported for a long, long time.
So for this part of our deep dive, we really wanted to explore that community reaction further, this broader cultural shift that seems to be underway. We're seeing fan-led initiatives, hashtag movements gaining momentum, and even the early stages of new ways of working that might involve AI in the creative process.
The conversation has definitely evolved, yeah. Initially, it felt like it was more about exploring the technical capabilities of AI. Now, the primary focus seems to be shifting towards the ethical considerations, what the community truly values in its creative output, and ultimately what kind of creative environment, you, the listener, want to see develop within the gaming world.
Because it's important to understand that this is far from a settled issue. This whole discussion around fantasy art and AI is very much ongoing, and the decisions being made right now, both by the major players and within the community itself, are going to have a lasting effect on the future of gaming culture. So let's really delve into where things might be heading.
Yeah, the arrival of AI-generated art has certainly acted as a catalyst, hasn't it? Revealing
It's almost like it's just revealed these underlying tensions that were maybe already there, hasn't it? You have the rapid advancement of technology sort of colliding with a desire to preserve more traditional values within the community. And you see these really passionate discussions taking place, which, as you mentioned, kind of echo many of the broader societal conversations we're having about AI in various creative fields.
Absolutely. And at the heart of these conflicts is a really significant reevaluation of what it even means to be a creator in the first place. Like, what actually constitutes art when an algorithm is involved? How do we even define creativity in this new context? And what degree of human input is necessary for something to be genuinely considered authored by an individual? For many, this resistance to AI-generated art isn't just about, a reluctance to embrace change. It feels like an active defense of the emotional and cultural connections that have historically been built through human creative endeavor.
And you see that play out in very tangible ways, don't you? These aren't just like abstract online arguments. We're seeing actual grassroots movements forming, people organizing campaigns specifically to raise awareness and influence how the industry operates.
Precisely. When you examine the fan responses, it really covers a wide spectrum. For those deeply concerned about AI art, the reaction has been notably vocal and often quite organized. You see instances of boycotts targeting games that incorporate AI elements, petitions circulating demanding greater transparency about the art's origin, and a clear push to support and promote projects that explicitly advertise themselves as AI-free. It's a very active form of resistance, really, aimed at preserving that human element in the artwork we encounter in our games.
But then conversely, you have other segments within the community who are, well, considerably more open to the idea of AI, maybe even enthusiastic about its potential. They view it as a possible tool for expanding creativity, fostering innovation maybe, and they advocate for a more nuanced perspective. They don't necessarily see AI as a direct replacement for human artists, but rather as something that could potentially work in tandem with them, enhance their capabilities, and perhaps even unlock entirely new avenues for creative expression.
And social media has played an absolutely pivotal role in all of this, hasn't it? It acts as such a powerful amplifier for these fan-driven actions. Ideas spread with remarkable speed, and it has become incredibly easy for individuals to coordinate their efforts. Hashtags emerge, online forums become these central hubs for discussion and organization, and you really witness a sense of collective identity forming around these differing viewpoints.
Yeah, we saw in the source material some really illustrative examples of these actions, things like campaigns specifically advocating for transparency in art creation processes, community leaders actively promoting no AI art pledges, fans diligently tagging and supporting those explicitly AI-free projects on platforms like Kickstarter. That's a very direct way of showing support, isn't it?
Right, and the formation of art collectives specifically dedicated to showcasing and preserving traditional artistry is another significant response. Then you have the more direct actions, like you said, boycotting games perceived to heavily rely on AI-generated components, alongside social media campaigns that specifically highlight the unique qualities inherent in human-created art.
And those petitions demanding clearer guidelines for AI usage that really indicates a desire for some form of industry standard or regulation to be established. We've also seen things like collaborative fan art contests that explicitly celebrate human creativity as a way to actively counter the AI trend.
And the educational aspect is also noteworthy, I think. Initiatives aimed at helping people better understand the potential implications of AI on the art world, alongside community-driven crowdfunding efforts that directly support traditional artists. These represent really multifaceted ways in which the community is engaging with this whole issue.
It's clear that the fans feel a profound sense of investment here. They don't see themselves as merely passive consumers.
Mhm.
They genuinely believe they have a stake in maintaining the artistic integrity of the games they cherish.
Which leads us to a really critical question, doesn't it? What does it even mean for something to be considered art in this evolving landscape? The increasing presence of AI-generated art in gaming is compelling everyone, from the players themselves to the major studios, to really grapple with the fundamental concepts of creativity, authorship, and what we truly value in artistic expression.
Because traditionally, we tend to think of art as something inherently human, right? It's about conveying emotions, sharing experiences, and there's typically a distinct sense of intention and a personal touch that originates from the artist. We celebrate the uniqueness, that individual vision and skill that an artist brings to their work.
Precisely. But AI-assisted, and even more so, fully AI-generated art really challenges that conventional definition. It forces us to reconsider what we mean by originality and who can even be considered the author when an algorithm is performing much of the creative work. If an AI can produce an image that elicits a strong emotional response or possesses aesthetic appeal, does it inherently hold the same artistic merit as something meticulously crafted by a human? That's the core question.
And it's not solely about how the art is created, is it? It's also about how we, as the audience, perceive it. Our understanding and appreciation of art are evolving as we become increasingly aware that machines are capable of producing things that can look remarkably similar to human creations, sometimes even, well, indistinguishable upon initial viewing.
That's right. It raises this fundamental question of whether the true essence of art resides in the process of its creation or solely in the final product itself. And how we answer that question is going to have significant ramifications for industry standards, certainly, but also for our broader cultural appreciation and acceptance of these newer forms of artistic output.
And you see that tension actively playing out in all these online discussions, right?
Yeah.
People are trying to reconcile these new realities with their existing notions of what art is and what its role should be within the context of gaming. The source material actually included a really useful comparative table, didn't it? Outlining traditional art, AI-assisted art, and fully AI-generated art across those very aspects of authorship, originality, and perception.
It did, yeah. It effectively highlighted the blurred boundaries that exist when a human collaborates with a machine, the ongoing debate surrounding the creativity and novelty of purely AI-generated work, and the distinctly different ways we tend to value art based on whether we perceive that human intention and emotion to be present. It laid it out quite clearly.
Ultimately, it feels like this redefinition of art is an ongoing dialogue. There aren't any easy answers, are there? And it requires us to be both thoughtful about our established values and, well, adaptable to the novel possibilities that technology is opening up.
Absolutely. It's not merely a technological shift. It's a cultural one. It's prompting all of us, creators, audiences, the industry as a whole, to really think deeply about what art can be and what role it should fulfill in a world that is increasingly shaped by these kinds of innovations.
And this resistance we're observing towards AI in game art brings up a really interesting point. Is it primarily driven by a genuine desire to safeguard artistic integrity? Or is there also an element of what some might term gatekeeping involved? Is it about maintaining established standards, or is it perhaps rooted in a fear of the unfamiliar and maybe even, I don't know, a touch of elitism?
It's a truly multifaceted issue, isn't it? On one hand, there's a very compelling argument that the resistance stems from a deeply held commitment to the authenticity and the emotional resonance that human-made art inherently carries. From this viewpoint, pushing back against AI is seen as a form of guardianship, a way of protecting those cultural and artistic values that have always been central to creative expression. By establishing boundaries and advocating for principles like transparency and ethical guidelines, the aim is to ensure that art remains a genuine reflection of human experience and ingenuity.
But then there's the opposing perspective, right? The idea that this resistance can sometimes veer into gatekeeping, that maybe a fear of change and a reluctance to fully embrace new technologies might actually be hindering innovation. The concern here is that by adhering too rigidly to traditional definitions of art, the industry might be inadvertently closing itself off to new creative possibilities and potentially missing out on novel ways to connect with audiences.
The fundamental tension really lies in finding that crucial balance, doesn't it, between respecting the values that have always held importance and maintaining an openness to progress. As this conversation continues to unfold, it's vital for everyone involved to really examine their own motivations and strive to differentiate between legitimate concerns about artistic integrity and fears that are simply rooted in a resistance to change. We need to foster a dialogue that respects the past while also being willing to embrace the future.
Ultimately, this entire debate surrounding gatekeeping versus guardianship really serves as a lens through which we can better understand this evolving art landscape within gaming. By having those honest and open conversations about what's driving these different perspectives, the industry has an opportunity to navigate this integration of AI in a way that hopefully respects both creativity and innovation.
And it's a distinction with significant ramifications, not just for the gaming world, but for the broader artistic community as well, I think. Finding that sweet spot where we balance caution with curiosity will be essential for artistic and cultural evolution. It really invites all of us to consider our own role in shaping the future of creativity.
So looking ahead, it seems pretty much undeniable that AI is going to play some kind of role in the future of gaming art. The crucial question then becomes, well, how do we navigate that? How do we integrate it in a way that is both innovative and, responsible?
I believe the development of clear legal frameworks and regulatory measures will be absolutely essential. We need transparent guidelines, ethical standards, and mechanisms like disclosure tags so that people can understand when and how AI is being utilized. This can significantly help in building trust and ensuring that AI serves as a tool to support rather than simply replace human creativity. Clear regulations can also play a vital role in protecting artists' rights in this evolving environment.
It sounds like we're also likely to see a greater emergence of these hybrid workflows, maybe, where AI isn't an either proposition, but rather a collaborator in the creative process, a way to enhance what human artists are already doing without losing that essential human element.
Exactly. This collaborative approach could really leverage the strengths of AI, things like, rapid iteration and the automation of more repetitive tasks while still allowing artists to maintain their creative vision and control. It's about finding that synergy between human ingenuity and machine capabilities to unlock new levels of artistic innovation and ultimately enhance the gaming experience for everyone.
But as with any significant technological shift, there are bound to be some challenges and resistance along the way. It feels really important to maintain open lines of communication between creators, fans, and industry leaders to address concerns and ensure everyone feels heard as this whole thing evolves.
Absolutely. And one particular area that holds considerable promise is this idea of AI as a genuine collaborative tool. Like you said, it's not about substitution, it's about enhancement. Consider how AI could assist with some of the more time-consuming aspects of game art creation, potentially freeing up artists to focus on the more expressive and creative elements of their work.
Yeah, the source material provided some really concrete examples of that, like AI being used to generate complex backgrounds or, say, landscapes, which can be incredibly time-intensive for human artists to create from scratch. This would then allow the artist to concentrate their energy on the characters or the key narrative elements within the scene.
Right. Or AI could provide visual references and even initial idea sketches, acting as a sort of springboard for an artist's own creativity. It's almost akin to having a very efficient brainstorming partner that can quickly generate a whole range of possibilities for you to react to.
And the efficiency aspect is significant too, particularly when it comes to iterative design, right? The ability for AI to rapidly prototype and allow for quick experimentation without substantial resource commitments could be a real game changer for artists looking to refine their work and explore different concepts quickly.
Exactly. It can also assist with tasks like color palette exploration, texture mapping maybe, and even creating placeholder assets in the early stages of development. It's about streamlining some of the more technical aspects of art creation so that artists can dedicate more time to the artistic vision itself.
It sounds like this collaborative model could also be really beneficial for things like maintaining visual consistency across a large game project or even facilitating collaboration among art teams that are geographically dispersed.
Definitely. And even exploring different artistic styles through style transfer or creating modular design components for easier customization, these are all areas where AI could potentially be a powerful ally for human artists. It's about finding that equilibrium where technology amplifies artistic expression without diminishing the unique human element that we value.
But for this to truly function ethically and effectively, it seems like we need some kind of framework, right?
Hmm.
The source material touched on the idea of regulating AI in game production. What might that actually entail?
Well, thoughtful regulation is definitely going to be key to ensuring the ethical and responsible use of AI in game production. It's about establishing clear guidelines that address the unique challenges and opportunities that AI presents, and ultimately safeguarding the interests of artists, developers, and players alike.
Transparency seems like a really fundamental element there. The idea of having like disclosure tags or even maybe AI-free certifications so consumers know exactly what they're getting.
Absolutely. That kind of transparency fosters trust and empowers players to make informed choices about the games they support based on their individual values regarding AI use. And for these regulations to be truly effective, it will require broad collaboration. Industry stakeholders, governmental bodies, maybe even cultural institutions will need to be involved in establishing a workable framework.
And the potential effect of that kind of regulation could be quite significant, couldn't they? Increased accountability for the companies utilizing AI, clearer information for consumers, and hopefully a more balanced ecosystem that supports both technological progress and the work of human artists.
Yeah, the source material included a really helpful table outlining some potential regulatory measures, things like transparency in AI usage enforced through, say, industry self-regulation or governmental oversight, the use of disclosure tags managed by industry standards organizations, and even the concept of licensing for AI art tools.
And copyright protection in this area is another critical piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Figuring out how existing legal frameworks apply to AI-generated work and ensuring that artists' rights are adequately protected in this new landscape.
Exactly. And the development of ethical standards for AI use within the creative industries, perhaps through joint initiatives between the industry and academia, could also play a crucial role in guiding responsible development and deployment. Supporting hybrid workflows through industry collaborations and educational programs is another key area, as is the potential for maybe AI usage audits to ensure compliance with regulations.
It really feels like we're at a truly pivotal moment where the choices we make now collectively are going to have a lasting cultural impact. This whole discussion surrounding AI-generated art isn't just some passing trend. It's actively shaping how we think about creativity itself.
It really is. It's forcing us to re-examine those fundamental values that underpin our appreciation of art. What does it truly mean to be a creator in this evolving context? What constitutes originality? And how do we define authentic artistic expression when algorithms are involved? These discussions have the potential to really deepen our understanding of creativity and maybe lead to a more nuanced appreciation for all forms of artistic output, including those enabled by technology.
And it also underscores the importance of holding onto our cultural identity and heritage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even as technology continues to evolve at this rapid pace, ensuring that those cultural narratives and artistic traditions remain central to our gaming experiences feels more important than ever somehow.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the legacy of this debate will be determined by how we navigate this complex integration of technology and art. By fostering open dialogue, being willing to grapple with the challenges, and embracing the opportunities thoughtfully, we can hopefully steer a course that both honors human creativity and welcomes responsible innovation.
So as we bring this part of our deep dive to a close, it really feels like the conversation around AI-generated art in gaming is about so much more than just the tools themselves, doesn't it? It touches on these core values of creativity, community, and what we really envision for the future of this space.
That's right. At its core, it's about transparency and respect for artists. As this technology continues its rapid advancement, it's vital that artists maintain control over their work and receive appropriate recognition and compensation. Open communication across all levels, fans, creators, companies, is going to be crucial in ensuring that AI becomes a true creative ally, not just a replacement.
And it really highlights the power of community too, doesn't it? Fans and creators coming together to advocate for the values they believe in. By engaging in these discussions and working collaboratively, the community can play a significant role in shaping the direction of gaming art moving forward.
Ultimately, this whole debate is asking us to think critically about the kind of artistic future we want to build. How can we effectively leverage technology to enhance creativity while staying true to the essence of artistic expression? It's about finding that crucial balance between innovation and tradition, really.
On that note, we want to give a quick shout out to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello, a fine fellow doing great work over in the LitRPG community. And as always, we'd love to hear what you think about all of this. What are your thoughts on the role of AI in gaming art? Where do you see things heading? Head down to the comments below and share your opinions. Let's keep this important conversation going.